Demetrice Benton from Cashback Solutions in Charlotte, North Carolina. Not only a successful tax professional and entrepreneur, but she's also the founder of multiple organizations dedicated to helping people rebuild their lives. Today, she's going to share her journey from addiction, hardship, and starting over to becoming the CEO of 3 businesses focused on financial empowerment, peer support, and helping others overcome barriers in their own lives. This conversation is about more than business success. It's about resilience, second chances, healing from trauma, overcoming addiction, and what can happen when someone refuses to give up on themselves.
At the age of 30, started in an addiction of drugs, crack cocaine. That ended up turning into a 10-year addiction. And with that, before that, we had built a house. I watched my house being built, had, 2 beautiful children, all that. It was my husband and I. And eventually we lost all that, right? So the house was foreclosed, cars, things like that we had was all gone. End up living with family. My husband sometimes slept in the car, just different things, how that arose. But so the blessing I think of that though is I just feel like with God's help and blessing, we're still together. We never really separated or anything like that. Sometimes he had to live with his family. I had to live with mine because that's your husband. He should be able to provide. He should be able to keep y'all in a place. He can't stay here too. All that we went through, but we still were together. Our children were still with us. And
What do you think led to the active addictions that was part of your past? What caused that to happen?
I am writing a book called Falling Forward. And in that, as I look, one of the things was that I'm the oldest of four 5 sisters and 1 brother. 2 from my dad's and 3 from my mom. So on my mom, living with my mom, it was more of that I was the mother. She wasn't on drugs, but she was addicted to going out, partying and things like that. Although she had 4 girls, but she liked to party. Back in those days, they didn't really teach finances. And some nights we may have eaten onion rings. She made it with onions and flour or something like that. In my mom's side, I had a lot of responsibility when I was living with her. In the 2nd grade, I ended up moving with grandma. I just kind of felt like, okay, so I don't live with my mom. I don't live with my grandma. I don't live with my dad, which was kind of always in the picture. But I think just turmoil within me as far as just different feelings. I never felt that I belonged anywhere. I did well at school, but I just really didn't have a lot of friends.
Being an older child, because I experienced that too, there is a lot of responsibility and you almost never get to focus on yourself. And it's almost like you never get the chance to be a child. And I feel like that's a cultural thing from our time. Do you agree?
Definitely agree. It was more of just feeling, I don't know, free for a minute, and it just went too far.
And to me, I'm just talking about from my perspective. In my book, I did advise the readers to allow your children to be children while they are children, because it's so much responsibility on a child. They're going to start doing adult things and you will be flabbergasted. Your head will spin at the things that kids will start doing when you take away their childhood. So that is what I experienced growing up.
Definitely.
That's exactly what now looking back. When you get some time to know yourself, you can look back and say, what happened? And I understand what happened when I got involved in my domestic violence relationships. I got in trouble with the law. I was just really out. And it's because I never had a childhood.
Right. Yeah, I definitely feel that. I was taking care of my 3 sisters and just trying to provide help helping my mom with Christmas. I was working and out there giving my money. It was even one time I was working. I was 14. I never forget this. I had moved back with her from my grandmother's, and so they were giving out checks on Friday. I had the summer job for a 14-year-old. They had these summer programs, and I had this job. And so he was giving out the checks, and I was like, well, wait a minute, you forgot to give mine. Actually, I don't even think it might not have been a check. It might have been cash. I don't know how I can't remember. But anyway, he said, oh, your mom came to pick that up this morning. Okay, so yeah, so he's like, your mom came to pick that up this morning. So it was like me just my mom has been on, services basically from, when I can remember, So it's like, yeah, it's just a lot that comes with being the oldest, especially back then. Yeah.
And I hear you saying something. No one ever taught you about boundaries either, did they? No one ever discussed boundaries with you at that time.
Mm-mm.
That's the same thing that happened to me. So it was a free for all. Because if you don't have boundaries, your life will spin out of control.
Before you know it. Yes, before you know it.
That's why it's very important that we take the things that we learn that we didn't have a chance to be taught. We have to learn those things now and exercise those things with our children and with the public. And sad to say, it is a cultural thing. This is a cultural issue. It's a cultural problem that we have that nobody is really talking about.
Yeah. That's true. And then the thing is once, and this is my issue as well, that once it happens, it's like having a second chance to come back is hard. And what I mean by that is, like you said, you had some records and things like that. You got in trouble with the law. So did I. And then when I'm, trying to come back and trying to make a life for myself, the culture, I just feel like the way the world is, especially in North Carolina, South Carolina, in these parts, it's not easy to do that. Because if you want a job, you got misdemeanors, you may even have a felony. But for me, like my felony was changing a price tag. But they said that if I would have stolen it, it would have been a misdemeanor. But because it's kind of like what do they call it? It's like a fraud thing. So it was a felony, but still, it was just hard for me to get a job. And so that's the reason why I just started my first year with taxes. I only had one client, but I knew I had to do something. I had some little jobs on the side, some little, $10 an hour or whatever it is but I just knew that if I had to make it, then I had to make it. I had to make a job for myself.
When did you leave your addiction, Demetrice?
So I left my addiction in 1990. But what happened is we had an opportunity. My daughter was pregnant, and she was gonna have to leave school. And so we had to have a place for her. We were staying at our lowest, like in this duplex. It was just the lowest I've ever stayed. And so we prayed for this man to give us an opportunity on this house that he was renting. And so we filled out the application. We prayed about it. And he gave us the opportunity. And when we got high that night, the next day, when we were moving, we threw everything in that dumpster and left it over there. And we never did it again. It's just crazy, but the whole time we were just, I felt like I was closer to God at that time, honestly, because I was praying so much. I was reading the Bible. I was like, Lord, why am I going through this? So, and we were, praying together, just whatever to try to figure out how to take this taste, how to get us off this roller coaster so that we can live a better life.
Never been in active addiction before. I can say I was addicted to toxic relationship. But what did that feel like when you were actively addicted to a street drug? I'm just wondering, for the audience, being that God allowed you to overcome that situation, you are the CEO of 3 companies now. And I just want to know, how did that feel? What was that like? for the audience?
Well, it takes you places that you never probably thought you would go. I feel like it's something, let's see, how is it? So it's just uncontrollable, honestly. And some people go lower than others. The support of family, or, they just don't have anything to look forward to. But for me, I just feel like it was something that was pulling you one way that you could not control. There'll be days that we'll say, we're not going to do anything today. We're going to try not to do anything today. And then what happened is somebody will come by, hey, I got this, or you know where to get this from, and I'm going to give you some. And it's just a little something. But once you do it, then you at the races, trying to get some more. So it's just something that is kind of like uncontrollable, and you trying to figure out how to get out of it. Sometimes you may just kind of surrender for a while.
My family that I came from, I noticed a lot of alcohol abuse and just people that were around me. I saw exactly what drugs would do to them, even though I had someone that tried to influence me to become a drug user. I said no, because I had a son when I was a teenager, and it was all on me when it came to my son. So that's why I did not choose to do drugs over my son. I had to get away from that individual that wanted my life to go in that direction. That's why, as of today, I am very careful with who I allow in my circle. I have some very strong boundaries for that reason, because I know without having boundaries and self-worth, it can take you to a dark place.
Yeah. And we're kind of like the same in a way, it just a different way. Like my mom, she dealt with her boyfriend was beating. I grew up with that. So for me, that was my boundary. I wasn't now something like that. And then I had alcoholics. I didn't see drugs, but alcoholics. So maybe that's the reason why I never really was interested in drinking, but that's just hasn't been. But I never saw. It started with you smoke a little weed, then let's just sprinkle something in there. Oh, you never tasted this? Oh, it's cool, and then it just, so that part, as far as that. But the drinking I did see, and my mom just kind of like, we crying, even at a young age, I'm crying and she in there hollering and, all this kind of stuff. That's the thing that was in my mind, that I wasn't going through that, but I still went another way.
Trish, you just said something. I'm listening to you as you're telling your story. Childhood traumas contributed to you making some of the decisions that you made. Because that's what you just expressed with the audience. And a lot of people don't even realize that. I didn't realize it. But as a child, in some instances, you were traumatized.
Oh, yes, yes.
And that is the root of where a lot of these decisions come from. We don't even realize it. Your active addiction, and you decided to stop. Tell us how God stepped in and done the miracle for you and your family. What happened?
So basically, like I said, we did not want our grandchild to grow up without knowing us. And, it was getting bad. People overdosed, and we prayed that night. We prayed that if God blessed us with this house, then we weren't going to do it anymore. And it wasn't easy. And my husband and I didn't even talk about it for like a month, being afraid that if we start talking about it, then it may trigger to just forget or whatever. So I had to seem like I was strong. He seemed like he was strong. And we didn't talk about it for a long time, but we never went back. It just happened overnight, which I feel like was a miracle. The man told us yes, and we moved. It was a 4-bedroom. It was in Garden City, but it was a nice house. We moved. My daughter had her own room, granddaughter, me and my husband, and my goddaughter was living with us. And the second year, just started advertising my business, getting more and more people. But I always had a passion to help people like me, or maybe in similar situations, where they're coming from domestic violence, where they're coming from whatever it is that they're stuck or having barriers in their life that they can't move forward or trying to move forward, but the barriers such as a record or whatever is homelessness, trying to find a home or trying to find a job or whatever it is, that's been my passion to help with that. So even during the tax seasons or working with people in taxes, it was more of a mission for me or a ministry for me because while we're talking, if I see something or we get on the subject and I tell people my story, my clients, whenever God tells me you should tell this person and people have, I'm so glad you told me that. I am going through this right now or different things like that. Yeah, we were taught how to make money, but not how money works, savings, things like that. So that's another thing. That's my ministry so that when we retire or not even that, just to learn how to live and live comfortably. And I see it. They make 300,000, but yet still the money, I don't know, they can't see it and they're owing taxes or they can't see their money because they're not managing it correctly. So that's how the miracle happened. And it's just continuing to grow from there. So Empowerment Circle is a peer support company, and you can't be a peer unless you have been through something where you can have empathy, you could kind of understand. It may not be the same thing. Maybe it's not drugs. I may not be working with someone that's, on drugs. It may be someone that had domestic violence or someone who is going through depression. I don't, or something like that. But sometimes in between our traumas, we go through those phases. Like, there are times when I was depressed. Like, how can this happen to me? I started out so well and I bought a house and this and that. And then this happened. Other things. You have to have some type of trauma that you've overcome come in order to be a peer. And we're not telling someone what to do. We're just kind of guiding and being I wouldn't say a friend, but more of a person, a support system for them. So you meet with the person 2 times a week, maybe 3. It may be a phone call sometimes, but someone that they have that they can kind of count on. And the peer, we help with resources or helping them find resources, a good peer support company anyway. You're partnered with resources and things like that for housing, for food. I may drop off a box of food, may help get cats, bus pass or what have you to help them. And then Ascending Growth is a nonprofit. And basically that is workforce development, social skills, and things like that. And what that is basically helping people get certified, maybe get CDLs. I teach tax class, OSHA, whatever, some CNA. So some like certification that doesn't take too long where they can get some kind of success and stability in their life to go forward. They may have come out of prison. We're working with second chance jobs, things like that, that would give them the opportunity, give them an interview. But before they go there, they have to go through, our workforce development thing, which is included social skills, some weeks of social skills, resume writing, how workplace etiquette, things like that. So when they get the job, this is not your company. You know what I'm saying? These people are paying you. If you want to get off work, there are some things that you're going to have to, you got to learn workplace etiquette. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you land a job paying you 20, 30, then don't lose that opportunity because you don't know how to handle that, or you feel like you can tell them what to do, or they downing you or what have you. Not saying that you have to let somebody just run over you,
Yeah.
but there are some things that you have to bite your tongue
Yeah.
and work with your job.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
everyone, you've heard it here. This was an extraordinary story that Demetrice Benton shared on this platform. My takeaway from this is never judge a book by its cover. because you do not know someone's story. And we place this information out to the masses to stop people from being judgmental of other people, because guess what? Everyone has a past. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks, Demetrice.
Thank you all for the opportunity for listening to my story.